What's up, guys? Welcome to Operation B, the podcast. I am your host, Jamie Thurber, and I am here to take you on a journey of deepening, of expansion, of understanding more about who you are and why you're here and how to operate in an optimal way that allows you to do what you want to do, feel how you want to feel, take care of yourself truly, and support everything that your heart desires. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. This is Jamie Thurber, your host here at Operation B, and today I want to talk to you a bit about the difference between the words but and, as well as how dismissive that language can be to not only yourself and parts of yourself, but to other people in conversations. You'll see what I mean when I talk about the other people, but the main focus of the conversation today will be how it is impactful to you dismissing parts of self. Because what we don't think about a lot is that when it comes to our own confidence levels, our own belief systems about ourselves, our own ability to follow through with the promises we make for ourselves, all of that stuff stems from not only our actions that we take or don't take, but also the language that we use. So if you're constantly talking poorly about yourself, you're not going to have that belief system, and your subconscious is not going to feel positively about you. Words matter. Words matter. So I wanted to dive into a couple aspects of this. I'm going to kind of explain to you how I first heard about this and started to implement it in my life. And it was about 5 years ago, actually. I have been with the same therapist for over 6 years, and which I highly suggest if you can find somebody that you really like and work really well with. I do suggest, in my opinion, in my experiences, it's been nice to stay with the same person because they know all of the versions of you, because you're constantly changing and evolving and growing. When they know all of the versions of you, it helps. It helps you get right to the point faster. So we were talking, and if you're not aware of this, I'm not completely educated on this topic, so I'm going to speak to it in my experiences. So don't go quote me in, textbook by any means. So IFS is a form of therapy. It's called internal family systems. I also work with this with my coach because she works with it as well. And the whole concept is understanding that there are no bad parts of self, meaning every part of you has been created as you've gone through life for a reason. So, example, if you really hate the version of you that gets really closed off when something feels uncomfortable, or you hate the version of you that feels really triggered when there's too much on your plate, or for me, it's like a disassociation response is one of my main, a lot of my parts use that as their defense mechanism, or that's their go-to when they feel uncomfortable. What we have to remember is that we create those aspects of ourselves. There's something that happened, an event that happened, a moment that happened, something that happened where our body created that so that we didn't have to feel bad. That's our goal. Our body's entire goal is for us to feel good, think good, be good, those things. So just as in my spine is a great example. I'm actually going to have him on the show, hopefully. My chiropractor I've been working with for a couple of years. My spine was like this, literally a zigzag line. If you've ever sewn a zigzag stitch on a sewing machine, that's literally what it looked like. And why it looked that way? It looked that way because every time I had an injury, which I've had a lot of them, every time I had an injury, my body overcorrected, and then it overcorrected again, and then it overcorrected again, because it's doing its very best. It's doing its best to take care of us and keep us moving and keep us functioning. Same thing happens with our emotional world, energetic world as well. All of that to say, the parts were introduced to me in a way when I was in a really tough situation, and as I've moved through really some of my darkest moments actually with my therapist, she's gone on to explain to me how if I can't find compassion for all the parts of me, then it's very difficult for me to be the best version of myself. Because the other aspect is, and this is how we visualize. I visualize that I have a classroom or a boardroom table, depending on where my head's at, full of people, and all those people are me. They're all parts of me. But then I, the Jamie that's here and now, have to be the parent. So that's why they call it the internal family systems. I have to be the voice of what's happening now, because what also happens is that part of you that gets triggered by XYZ thing still believes that it's in that timeline. So my coach talks a lot about the fact that where a lot of our, what's the word? Stress and in like agony kind of that we cause ourselves comes from the fact that parts of us are not living in the now, they're living in a different timeline. And that's very much, again, scientifically, there's a lot of, you guys look this up, IFS, it's lots of IFS and polyvagal theory. Your mind will be like, oh. So anyway, that part was created in that moment, but that part also gets kind of frozen in that moment and thinks that it's still 2006 or 2024 or whatever it was when that part was created. So if you're acting as the main self, then you're able to say, okay, part, I understand. Like I have a drill sergeant. That's what I named her. We name them to be kind of funny because it makes it easier to deal with. But the drill sergeant part of me is definitely the one who created a lot of things and also made me able to function at such a high level while I was so sick for so many years. Of course, now I realize like to my own detriment, but she doesn't know that. You know, the drill sergeant version of me doesn't know that. I have to be very aware of her so that I can keep her in check, because there's a time and a place that the drill sergeant's really good. Like when it's time for me to, you know, follow through and do things that I don't feel like doing, but I have to keep her at bay, because if she leads all the time, I burn out. I do too much. I don't listen to my body. So that's what the therapy is created for. So you can start to recognize the parts of you, why they were created and what job they do. With that, it helps you with your self-talk. It helps you with having having compassion for self. And I actually just bought like an image on a canvas for my bedroom that says, if your compassion does not include self, then it is not complete. And isn't that the truth? We think we have so much compassion for everyone else, but how can we truly have compassion for other people if we also don't have compassion for self? I don't know that we can. So when we do this, we dismiss. If we're not finding the parts of us and having compassion, we dismiss a lot. We ignore, we hush, we persecute. We talk to our parts like they're to be punished instead of speaking to them like we would a friend or a child. And so this type of work, the idea is like I did a lot of personal development, as many of you who've been following my journey for the past 10 years know. I did a lot of rewriting the narratives in my head. I did it a lot through affirmations, through journaling practices, through things, meditations, things like that. That was how I rewrote my money mindset, how I rewrote the way I approached work, how I rewrote the way I approached relationships, built my business. Everything was done through affirmations and self-talk and rewriting those conversations, basically. So when I learned about the IFS system, I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. I was fighting myself in so many ways instead of remembering and being able to look at that part of me and say, wow, I'm so sorry that you think that, you know, I'm so sorry that you went through that and that you believe that it's so necessary for you to exist. And then I can look at the other part and say, wow, okay, I completely understand. And we're in the here and now, and I need you to trust me because I got this, okay? And then you look at self, like you speak to them like you would when people talk about inner child work. When you're doing inner child work, you're actually doing IFS work, whether you realize it or not. Inner child work definitely is a form of IFS, even if it's not presented to you that way. Where the but and comes in is the fact that, oh man, the but is so dismissive and we don't even realize it. This was a game changer for me. I actually was sitting with a client the other day and she was telling me this entire story about how she was going to portray this fact for herself to the other party. And it was beautiful words, but she used a but in the middle of the context. And I was like, what if you said that to me again and you used and? And she's like, I recognize that you do that a lot. I accentuate the word and a lot. And you guys might have noticed that in watching the show, especially in season 2, because I do it so naturally these days that it has just become a way that I speak to people, because I now see the dismissal of the word but so freaking much. And so let me explain the difference, because it will be a game changer in the way you communicate your needs, your preferences, as well as with other people, but also how you speak to yourself. So the word but basically negates everything we just said in the first part of the sentence. So, hey, I love you and I know that you mean well, but what you did over there was really wrong and you did a bad job and I don't like it. So, totally negates that I really love you by saying you did something fucked up or whatever. So instead, the thought is, hey, I really love you and how passionate you are, and the way you handled that situation actually really hurt me. Or the way you handled that situation didn't work with what we were trying to accomplish. Can we talk more about blah, blah, blah? The and is a bridge, because it doesn't always have to be one or the other. You don't love someone and they're an asshole, or you don't love someone or they're an asshole. You can love someone and they had an asshole moment, okay? So that's what we're looking at. We have this space to be able to be collaborative, which is the word and. Collaborative, acknowledging all aspects of the experience with the word and. It creates intention and self-responsibility when you use the word and, because you're speaking from a place of construction versus a place of destruction, okay? So, but, again, basically negates the beginning of the sentence. And is making effort to be on the same page. So if you're explaining, I really love you and that thing you said hurt me, you can have both of those. You can be hurt by someone and love them at the same time. You can be hurt by someone and not be mad at them at the same time. But the world has constructed this weird thing that makes us think that we have to, if we're mad at someone, we can't love them, or some weird line that has to be put between the two people, or between the two things, I mean. So if we're again, the word but is it limits. It limits what you're saying. It discounts what you're saying. It excludes something. It's dismissive. Where the word and, like I said, is collaborative, which is my favorite way to describe it. But it's also more direct way of communicating. It allows you to be constructive, to share feedback or an opinion without dismissing or devalidating others' feelings. Holy shit. So one of the main things I teach couples, or I teach my clients who are trying to learn how to be better communicators or better partners, is you have to recognize where your language is devalidating to the person that you're speaking to, or dismissing their experience. No one wants to have a conversation with someone about something hard or something they care a lot about or something they're working on with another person who's going to be completely dismissive to what they're saying. As humans, one of our basic human needs is to seek validation from other human beings. It is a thing we all do very naturally. It is a thing that some of us obviously find ways to work, or we think we do, find ways to work beyond. But you're getting that validation somewhere. But a lot of our lack of confidence, a lot of our lack of connection will come from not feeling validated in a lot of places. So I know in my own journey, there's been a lot of times of me feeling very sure of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and not feeling validated by anyone. So as I was rewriting my world a little bit and deciding who I was going to have very close to me, who I was going to allow to see the deep parts of me, I had to recognize that part of why I wasn't feeling validated was because I was surrounding myself with the wrong kind of people. So people don't get you, and they're not growing themselves, and they're not self-aware, then it's very difficult for you to get validated in a healthy fashion, or feel validated in a healthy fashion. So the use of the word and does create a supportive and collaborative conversation between you and another person. So if you're speaking to someone who's capable of that level of emotional maturity, or capable of that level of connection with you, then they'll understand that it's collaborative. They'll look at it as collaborative and supportive. That language will actually draw them closer to you. They'll lean in more than they would lean back or be really just in their own little reality while you're talking. Another thing, like I said, I mentioned this shortly, but make the word and is making an effort to be on the same page, because you're not being dismissive with the word but, where you're like, oh yeah, you're a great person, but I watched you do blah, blah, blah thing, right? It's like, wow, you're a really good person. So that's why I didn't really understand why XYZ thing, or hey, that didn't feel as, in integrity to me. Being able to say words like that to someone are so important, and talk about a really healthy, connected relationship. Something that this has come up a lot, the dismissing someone else's feelings, is when there's something emotional going on, like a death in the family, for example. There's a death in the family where both people are grieving in their own way, and one person's like, well, I understand that she's having a really hard time, but I am too. So like, what am I supposed to do? Because I can't get what I need from her. And it's like, wow, guys, that level of where your head is at, it makes my heart hurt, because I know I can't force someone to elevate their understanding of self and elevate their ability to be a better, more well-rounded human, to where like the amount of self-destruction that comes from that conversation, as well as not being supportive of the person that you love who's also going through a hard thing, it's just really big. And it's really sad that so many people don't recognize their own places of dismissing others, and they're not doing it intentionally. And that's the hard part, right? Like, I don't think these people are being malicious by intent, but what could you imagine if it's like, wow, we're both going through a really hard loss, and she's handling it in a very different way than me, and it makes me sad, or it hurts that I can't relate. So and that's okay. And that's okay. I'm going to seek the kind of support that I need from someone else, right? And is a great thing for when you're like, this thing is happening, and that's okay. I'll deal with it. I'll learn from it. I'll whatever. So where we can create this space for ourselves, this space for connectivity, this space for supportive, when we use and more, and not dismissing someone else's journey or dismissing the parts of our journey, okay? I had a moment where I did this, but I still had a day when I did this. And it's like, we devalidate ourselves so much with that, and dismiss our own growth patterns with ourselves so much. So if we can start recognizing the language when we're speaking to other humans, then there's a lot more hope of us being able to do it for self as well, which really becomes this connectivity that I think so many of us really, really seek. And what we don't realize is, if we're not able to connect with self and support self in that way, if we're not able to stop dismissing parts of our own journey, we're never going to create the kind of connections that we want with other humans. It's going to be like this, and we're going to wonder why they don't fit, and why they don't understand us, and why they're not giving us what we need, blah, blah, blah. You have to give yourself what you need first. You have to be able to have compassion for self, and be able to honor your own full entire journey as it is, even if parts of it are ugly, even if parts of it don't make sense, even if you experience all of the emotions on the rainbow in like a 1 hour period and you feel crazy. Why would we be bad or like down on ourselves about that? It's just being a human. It's a human experience. Everybody has these moments. And the more we can find the compassion for self, do that first, then the compassion that we feel for other people becomes so much richer, so much more rewarding for us and them. And it creates this space where you're not needing to pull from them, or they're not needing to pull from you. We're able to stand in like harmony, basically, together, as humans in a human experience. And then when the person needs us and we need to like lean on each other, we can, but it's not this like all consuming, draining thing, or we're not walking away feeling dismissed or feeling like nobody cares or feeling like, all the things, the bad things. So, why this ties into IFS, which is what I started the conversation about, is that imagine if you spoke to parts of you saying, okay, I understand what you're doing and why you were created, drill sergeant part, but you created all these bad things for me too. So, I need you to sit down and shut up. How would another person react if that's what you said to them? Not freaking well. That's what. Not well. So, imagine if I was to say, and I do this now very much, okay, Drill Sergeant Part, I fully understand why you were created and the purpose that you have in this relationship. I fully understand that. I fully understand why you exist and I appreciate it. And right now, I need you to have a seat because I need to drive. I'm going to be okay. We're all going to be okay, but I need to drive. Do you see the difference? It's a massive difference how much we don't even realize, because even though you're not probably walking around talking to the parts of yourself the way that I do, unless you're familiar with this form of therapy, but you don't realize how whether you're speaking to the drill sergeant part of yourself, your inner child, the person that was 12 years old when she got scared and decided that, she needed to constantly be hypervigilant about storms or whatever. If you don't know that you're speaking to those parts of yourself, I promise you, likely you're speaking to them in a very dismissive, not super supportive fashion. There's a lot of blaming going on. There's a lot of whys. There's a lot of whats. There's a lot of why would you do that? There's a lot of shame and blame, and it's just not healthy. So my reasoning for wanting to explain this to you today was multiple fold. I almost said threefold, but there's lots of reasons. One is for the part of our audience that are trying to or currently working on shifting from being a very much like robot style productive human to a more present, grounded human, which is, Operation Do to Operation Be. If you haven't checked out that episode, we'll link it below. Go watch that episode or listen to that episode. It explains the difference between do and be really well. And so if that's where you're at, I wanted to explain this to you because it'll help you continue on the journey of getting more of the being. I also wanted to share it for those of you who are here because you resonate with me and my chronic illness journey. In my chronic illness journey, there's a lot of self-blame. When your body has felt as though it is a battlefield, when your body has felt as though it is not a safe place to be, of course you're going to be dismissive of your parts. Of course you're going to be like, literally, what's the word? Like wanting to execute parts, like you're wanting to put them in prison because they're so terrible and they're the reasons. That is a huge part of when you have chronic pain or chronic illnesses, because your body, it feels like your body is attacking you all the time and your brain like cannot sort it out. And so it's this constant battle where I'll tell you what, guys, like if you are dealing with that, please look into IFS. Please find yourself a therapist or a coach that works with this methodology, because not everybody realizes or like advertises the great connection between IFS and people's emotional systems that have been dealing with chronic illness, but it is a really great connection. They pair up really, really well, and it helps your body and your system become more understanding of what happened, why your body reacted the way that it did, but most importantly, you stop blaming yourself for being ill. And when the world around you has always told you nothing's wrong, you don't look sick, you're fine, everything's fine, of course you're going to look inside and say, oh boy, like I must be wrong. I must not be healthy. Something must be wrong with me. So it becomes very internalized. It becomes a huge piece of the anxiety boat, a huge piece of the things that no medicine will ever fix. Only therapy and time will heal that piece. I believe I've told you this before, but this is a huge part of the puzzle for me, where when me and Tony decided we were going all in on whatever it took to find out what was wrong with me, I looked at him and said, this is what I need you to understand. Sobbing in my bed, literally after like a 48-hour complete and utter body panic attack, I looked at him and said, even if tomorrow a doctor said, we know what's wrong, and they gave me a magic pill that got rid of any symptom I ever had, there was still such a backlog of emotional and mental things that had happened during the 25 years of being ill that I knew that no matter what, I still had a lot of work to do to unravel that. My body would still not be okay. My system would still have a big problem. I'd probably have fallen back into like a really unhealthy cycle of overworking and ignoring and whatever, even if I had no symptoms, because 20 years of something, guys, that's a lot of residue. Woo! That's a lot of residue. So my hope is that you found some nuggets in this video. If you did, I'd love to hear about it. Feel free to email me anytime that you want. The email address is listed below. As always, if you enjoyed this message and you find that anyone else you know might benefit from it, please share it with them. Help us get the message out. Help us lift the spirits of as many people as we possibly can. And wherever you listen, make sure that you're subscribed. And if you haven't done so already, please be sure to leave us a review. I'm so grateful that you're here watching and listening, and that's something that would be a huge help to me if you would go do that. So thank you so much for being here. Have an amazing day wherever you are, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you for listening to Operation B, the podcast. To support this message and to support the show, please make sure that you like, follow, and share the podcast wherever you enjoy listening. And be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. Thank you for being here, and see you next time.